Hi, this is David Holt. I'm the Emerging Technologies Law Librarian here at Santa Clara Law. Today I'm going to be going over how to compile legislative materials related to a code section. The first step in this process, for our purposes, since we're working from an exercise, is to start with the codified section. The research problem that we have here is to locate legislative materials that relate to a section of code in the Public Resources Code that was enacted in the previous legislative session. So we can copy and paste this code section into Westlaw to begin. Make sure your jurisdiction is set to California if it isn't already. And that pulls up the code section. You'll see the statutory text is included first, along with the citation to the code itself. At the bottom, underneath the statutory text, are the legislative history notes. Now you'll see that there's only one note here, as this was recently enacted, and this was a new code section that didn't previously exist. If this was a code section that had been modified by recent legislative activity, you would see more than one citation here. What this is citing to is what's called either a session or a chaptered law. Session or chaptered laws are the compilation of statutes enacted during a legislative session that have been collated into a single volume. If this was a federal code section, we'd see references to the Federal Session Law Reporter, U.S. Statutes at Large, with a parallel citation to the public law number. Since we're looking at a state statute here, we see simply the chaptered session law. If you click on this link, Westlaw will provide you the text of the session law. Now remember, the session law is cohesive. You may have a single session law that modified various places within the code. So you will have often more than one code section that's going to point back to the same session law. That's not the case in this example here. But what you'll see in terms of the components of the session law is the chapter that it was assigned. So this was the 850th statute that was enacted during the previous legislative session. The short title, or the popular name of the statute itself, and then the statutory text. For our purposes, in terms of locating legislative materials, what we're looking for is the bill number, as that's what's going to be used in the next step in this process. I'm going to copy and paste this. This is Senate Bill 270. If we go to CalLegInfo here, which they've just updated their page, some of you may be familiar with this old page, which is still the top Google search result. However, Sacramento recently updated their page. It's now leginfo.legislature.ca.gov. If you click on Bill Information, select the appropriate legislative session, the appropriate chamber, and enter in the bill number. This was Senate Bill number 270. Click on Search. You'll see it produced one result here for us. This is the Legislative Council's Digest, again the statutory text. The other material that you'll have here are the votes, both in the committee and on the floor. Its history, so when it was introduced, up to its second and third reading, the work in the committee, and then finally approval by the governor, and then chaptered. For our purposes, in terms of locating materials that would be of use for constructing a legislative intent argument, we would want to look under bill analysis here. And you'll see the committee reports and the floor analyses that have been compiled for this statute. If you click on any of these links, it's going to point to a PDF file. And you'll see that these committee reports and floor analyses are easily accessible here. Besides the legislative documents themselves, and this is particularly true for state legislative materials, you'll also want to look at any secondary materials and legal scholarship. Now, if we go back to our code section and click under Citing References, you'll see that there are two secondary sources that have cited to this code section. If this was a more contentious area of law that produced debate within the legislature, you're more likely to see that the topic has been taken up by legal scholars and that scholarship will be produced. So that's how you locate legislative materials for the state of California. Again, if you need any assistance in terms of your legal research task or in terms of locating the documents that are associated with the legislative process, please come and speak with one of the librarians here in the HEFI Law Library. We are here to help, and you can reach us in a variety of ways, email, phone, come in, and we even offer an instant messaging service. Thank you so much.